you guys, and welcome back to another episode of Tailor Made Life, where every conversation is one step closer to designing the life that God has for you. I'm your host, Taylor Renee, and as always, I'm so excited to have you back here with me, y'all. We are making some progress, man. We're on episode 18, 19. We're doing a thing. So yeah, let's just get right into it, right? I think this past week, I had a team meeting in Miami. Now, usually these are like regional meetings that we typically have them like over Zoom, right, electronically. But this time, they decided to bring us all out. We're in Miami, turning up another night. Like, we were just vibing, right? So cool. We started to have our regular presentations, just going over every department and the roles and all the, corporate things, right? But of course, our president got up to speak. And as she's talking, she just keeps reiterating the importance of relationships, right? Building relationships, maintaining relationships, working relationships yields to capital. That was all. She just kept saying that. And it really got me thinking, right? Like, I, like so many of us, thought that relationships were like a soft skill, right? Like, I didn't realize how relationships yielded to capital in that sense, working relationships, right? How they yielded to opportunity and leverage. And so as she continued, she talked about how the relationship and the rapport that she's built with each one of these venue reps is what caused us to be so successful in the long run, right? But I think the concept of a relationship being capital is what we don't quite understand. And it's not, when I say capital, I don't necessarily mean financial capital, right? I mean like more relational capital. Now, of course, that can then lead to physical capital, right? But in this aspect, I'm speaking more to the opportunities and the influence that it yields, right? A lot of us view working relationships as transactional. I help you, you help me. That's kind of it, right? But it's not just I call you when I need something, or they call you when they need something. I mean, that's typical, right? But that's not a real working relationship, and those things don't last long. They don't typically last that long. But and if that's your approach, then you're probably going to be setting yourself up for a lot of disappointment along the road, because when it's time to get things done that really count, that person may not be as quick to trust you, or may not be as quick to help you, because they don't have a real rapport, right? You never shared a laugh or a drink or a story together, right? It was always just a transactional thing. That's not a real substantial relationship. And you put something in, like, they aren't vending machines, right? You don't put something in them to then expect a return immediately. That's also I think a typical approach that we have that's just completely wrong. Sometimes building a relationship really means bringing someone in, you starting off, right? Sometimes it means just talking with them, sharing a story with them, laughing with them, right? Asking them about a business opportunity that they could asking them what type of business opportunities do they like, what are they interested in, what piques their interest, right? Like, appealing to someone in a way that's not so obvious that you want something in return, right? Like, if you see somebody who's actively trying to get something from you or trying to be a salesman, right? Don't you typically stray away from those type of people? Like, it's the same concept here. You don't go into a relationship or go seeking connection just based off of what you think that they could give you immediately. So I think starting small, right? Helping them solve small problems, listening to their stories, asking about the family, asking about the kids, checking on them when you don't necessarily need anything, checking in, asking about the game. The strongest relationships are built long before anyone asks for a favor. So before you ask them for something, your rapport and your relationship with them should not involve that. Does that make sense? I I remember like first starting out, and I was kind of new to the whole working relationship and what that actually meant. We were having a really busy stadium season, and with stadium shows, it's a lot. It's a lot of moving pieces because obviously a stadium is huge, right? So it's just massive numbers, and I was having trouble with getting an invoice. Now, I work in settlement. We use a lot of different vendors to provide, and to come and provide services for us for the show and for the artists and whatnot. And so I had a discrepancy with one of the invoices. So I call the vendor directly, and I kind of asked about it. And I wasn't mean, or I wasn't, I was just being myself. I was just asking them about it. I was obviously new, so I didn't have all of the wording right. But I asked him, hey, could you send over, such and such, such and such, whatever. And so later on, I bring this up to my production manager. And he's just like, okay, I get what you were trying to do, but next time if you have a problem, if you have a question, if you need something from them, right, come through me first. I'm the one with the relationship. I'm the one with the rapport. I'm the one that has more of a connection with them. So if you need them to send you something, if you need for them to help you or whatever the case is, come to me and I will then relay that information. And as I was writing this out and thinking about it in the lens of a relationship maintenance, I realized that the vendor wasn't just responding to a question, right? The production manager had spent time building trust and rapport and establishing credibility. So when a relationship exists like that, like the one that they had, right, communication flows just a bit differently. Now, I don't know about you, but when I go into a store, right, and I'm used to seeing somebody that works with me, don't you want to see that person again? Don't you feel more comfortable when you're getting your questions answered by someone that you have built a relationship with? And it's the same thing here, right? People are more receptive and understanding and more willing to work through the challenges together when there is a relationship there. Now, for me, in the market, in the place that I'm in, specifically, I go about building my relationships a little. I mean, I don't know. I don't think it's different from anybody else, but I know I'm a big advocate of work not being everything. So work isn't always the center of my conversation. Now, when it needs to be, of course it is, right? And we'll, get to that. But first thing off of the first conversation, I typically like to go around work. That makes sense. I'm the type that will ask about your family. I'll ask about, your kids or your vacation or, share something exciting in my life. Like I will go around work just because I want to break the ice, right? I don't want to start off with working things all the time. I think that's a little forthcoming. And so I skip around it, right? I eventually start to ease my way back into working conversation, right? But first thing of the first meetup, I'm going to be asking you about your family, your vacations, your favorite basketball team or sports, or when you started working here, what got you here, what school you went to, like things that are just easier to talk about, right? And then as time goes on, I start to ease my way closer and closer to more work related questions or concerns or whatever the case is. But most of the time, people don't want to talk about work every single time. And that's not really what relationships are built on. They aren't built on just one thing, not even working ones, right? But yeah, I think there's a special art to it, and there's a very specific way in which you will go about it as you start to get into those different arenas and those different spaces. But how I do it is based on who I'm around. Unfortunately, who I'm around, who I'm talking to, what my demographics look like around me, what everybody else is kind of talking about, and I kind of tailor it from there. I kind of do my own thing once I've understood the forensics of the situation. I think some of my most successful relationships have come from just, first off, strong confidence, connection, looking at them in their eyes, shaking their hands, being consistent, doing good work, right? That's like the base, the foundation, the core. But then the other part has come from vulnerability and sharing my ideas, expressing what I believe in. And it's not to be controversial in any way, but it's just expressing who I am. It's showing my other side, right? It's showing my colors. Now, there would be some people that would argue that you have to be a little bit more strategic, and yes, I do agree with that, but my strongest relationships have come from sharing perspectives about things that interest me the most. Not talking out of the side of my neck, not trying to, big up some work topic that I don't know much about, or stir up drama, or any of that foolish, like none of that stuff. It's honestly just been me authentically showing who I am, what I have to offer, and how I could possibly help you, and vice versa, right? They catch on. The person catches on to either your energy and how you are coming to the what you're bringing to the relationship, and they bring the same thing, and that's how you work in tandem, right? But there's no way you're going to be able to build a relationship with someone if you're constantly, having an attitude, or constantly complaining, or constantly being negative, or always having something negative to say, or never asking them about themselves, never engaging in conversation. Like those are just you're not going to get anybody like that, right? So I love the fact that my president specifically brought that up, because it opened my eyes to how important those relationships really are. So the next time I go into a venue, the next time I meet someone, the next time that I am interacting with anyone on behalf of my team, I'm going to make sure, hey, that this relationship, you don't know what this relationship is. You don't know what this relationship could turn into. Let's nurture it, right? You never know how much influence someone has until it's too late, right? So it's best to just treat everyone the same, no matter if they're the janitor or if, they're the president, CEO, whatever, right? It's best to treat everyone the same, and nurture each and every contact and relationship that you come into, because you never know what it could lead to. You never know how much capital you could get from that, how much leverage you can get. And even if you don't get any, right, it's still the idea of maintaining a consistent character within your workplace. And that is the most important attribute that you can have. So, long story short, relationships are your capital. The personal ones and the professional ones. The personal ones and the professional ones. Not because they will guarantee that you get your way or that they'll instantly open doors, right? But because trust takes time to build and seconds to lose, right? And so in a world where everybody wants something, the people who consistently show up, listen, help, and genuinely invest in others are going to surpass those that don't. We all recognize that this is a very microwave society and mentality, right? We all have this instantaneous mindset, right? And so you stand out from the pack by being the total opposite, by showing up when nobody expects you to, investing, listening, sharing your knowledge, sharing your wisdom without expecting anything in return. In working specifically, relationships aren't just a part of the work. Sometimes they are the work. Sometimes I show up to work just to maintain relationships. Does that make sense? It's dealing with people, right? You're dealing with people. You're dealing with someone who has a heart and emotions just like you do. And so if they're able to help you in a working arena, that is great, right? But you're still dealing with a person. So I like to treat people, obviously, how I would like to be treated. My working professionals, my business partners, my business relationships and connections, I talk to them and treat them as I would want to be treated. You know, I listen to them, laugh with them, joke with them, have a drink with them, just as I would want somebody to do the same with me. So, yeah, that's pretty much all I have for you guys. Thank you for listening. Thank you for staying on this journey, on this ride with me. And yeah, if you have any questions, if you have any, comments, concerns, anything that you want to see be discussed, please let me know. I'm here. So yeah, thanks for watching. Bye.